We've ranked the 5 best training shoes of 2024. Then we did the 5 best racing shoes of 2024. Today, we rank a third and final category, the most exciting, misunderstood, and elusive category of all, workout shoes. Let's go. So full disclosure, I was way more excited to make this video about workout shoes than I was to rank easy running shoes or racing shoes. And the reason is that companies know how to make a good racing shoe, like they know how to make a good easy running shoe. A racing shoe has carbon, super light foam, that's it. Easy running shoe is durable, supportive, and a little clunky. But workout shoes right now don't really have a blueprint. Some of them have a carbon plate in them, some don't. Some of them have big stacks of super foam, others not so much. Some of them almost feel like barefoot running shoes, and others make you feel like you're 40, 50 millimeters off the ground, which I guess you are. What's happening is that brands are throwing a bunch of things at the wall to see what sticks, and here we are trying a bunch of different sneakers. So today I'm gonna rank the ones that I think are the 5 best. One last thing before we get started, remember, this is my ranking. These are my preferences. It doesn't mean that the shoes in this ranking will agree with you. And if you already have a workout shoe that you really like, don't change it. But if you're curious and you want to change up your workout shoe game, these are a good place to start. Okay, that's enough disclaimers. Let's get started. With number 5, the Brooks Hyperion Max 2. So let's back it up for a second. You've probably noticed that by now, many workout shoes have massive slabs of foam underneath them. Some of them as tall as 50 millimeters of stack height. Damn! Last year, Brooks released something that was a bit of a counterswing to that. The Hyperion Max, the original. It had barely any stack height, was really hard off the ground, and a lot of people liked it, but others complained that it didn't have enough cushioning, that Brooks had swung too far the other way and had created something too minimalistic. Now this year it seems like Brooks addressed that issue with the Hyperion Max 2. It has a few more millimeters of stack height, a bit more of that DNA Loft bouncy foam that is also in the Hyperion Elite 4, so Brooks' racing shoe, and this one also has a carbon plate. All that said, the Hyperion Max 2 is still seen as a minimalist workout shoe when you compare it to some of its competitors from other brands. But what it doesn't have in cushioning, it makes up for in lightness, and some people like that, myself included. So the Brooks Hyperion Max 2 might be for you if you like to feel the ground under you, if you're a fan of a relatively small heel-to-toe drop, and if you have sensitive feet that tend to chafe at the upper. And you might want to look elsewhere if your ideal workout shoe is something with max cushioning or also max propulsion. What I'm saying here is this is a pretty good Goldilocks shoe. Not too small and aggressive, not too big and bouncy. It's in the middle. If you prefer going to either extreme, the Hyperion Max 2 might not satisfy. Okay, number 4. The HOKA Skyward X. Alright, so this has been the year of weird for HOKA. And I mean, I get it. They have huge momentum, they're all over the world, they've become so popular, so why not ride that and try new projects? Anyway, I think that's what they did when earlier this year they launched this monstrosity of a shoe called the Cielo X1.
HOKA Cielo X1 from HOKA.
X1. Which is a racing shoe that's so aggressive that it feels like you're running on a half wheel. And then just a couple months after that, they released the Skyward X, maybe the heaviest workout shoe, or at least serious workout shoe in the world. Okay, look at this. The stack height is almost 2 full inches, which basically is like a high heel. And much of it is this super responsive foam that wraps around a carbon plate. So it has a whole lot of power underneath it. I remember seeing these metrics, 48 millimeter stack height, 11.3 ounces, and just rolling my eyes and thinking, okay, this is big, cushy shoe culture gone completely rogue. Until I got to try the Skyward X's in Boston and weirdly fell in love with them. The thing is, the power of their bounce weirdly offsets their super heavy weight. So you forget that you're running in 11-ounce shoes. Plus, all that cushioning makes them super comfortable and probably saves your joints a little bit. I ended up having a really nice run. And you might also really like the Skyward X if you're all about the cushioning, if you like a super powerful bounce, And also if you value durability. Now, I found that a lot of HOKA shoes have struggled with that in the past, but the Skyward X is so massive that it takes a long time to beat it into the ground. Meanwhile, the Skyward X might not be for you if you specifically like to feel the ground under you. You know, on such a big platform, the Skyward X tends to feel a little bit unstable sometimes. The other thing is if you value lightness in a running shoe, stay away from this one. Like, I'll say it again, 11.3 ounces is gargantuan. So basically, if you're not into this whole big cushy shoe movement, do not touch this with a 10-foot pole. Okay, number 3, the New Balance Fuel Cell Rebel V4. Okay, so do yourself a favor and do not give up on the New Balance Rebel series. So I tried the very first version of the Rebel, V1, I guess, back in 2019, and it was a disaster.
This is a disaster!
With every step, I felt like my feet were rotating inwards, really didn't like the shoes. This version 4 is, well, technically an entirely different shoe and is nothing like the V1. So if you've been burned by the Rebels before, fear not, this is not the same. So this is wild to say and think about, but the Rebel V4 is roughly half the weight of the HOKA Skyward X. And that's because it's way on the other side of this spectrum of workout shoes. In the era of superfoam and carbon plates, this is as minimalist a serious workout shoe as you're going to find. So part of that is because the Rebel V4 doesn't have a carbon plate. Just a mix of EVA and TPU foam, which is the foam that you'll find in regular New Balance training shoes like the 880 or the 860, and then a slab of PIBA foam, which is the foam that you can find in New Balance racing shoes, like the Supercomp Elite V4, for example. So these two foams are tightly bound and mixed together to create something that's no nonsense and perfect for the person who says, I like how these new shoes feel, how foamy and bouncy they are, but I don't like how tall they are. This is kind of like the best of both worlds. Foamy, but not massively tall. And here's why I'm a fan. Sometimes I like to work out with shoes that don't have a carbon plate so that I can keep that little psychological edge for race day. The Rebel V4 allows me to do that while still providing a lot of bounce, and then as a bonus, it's the lightest shoe on this list. And the Fuel Cell Rebel V4 might also be for you if you want a good bang for your buck. It's pretty cheap. If you also want a fast shoe without any carbon, and if you value something that's super lightweight. Meanwhile, the Fuel Cell Rebel V4 might not be for you if you want max support in your shoes, if you want carbon in your workouts, or also if you value durability. These tend to lose their bounce after a few hundred kilometers. Moving on to number 2, the On Cloudmonster Hyper. So let me take you back to the Skyward X, a shoe with phenomenal bounce and power, but that struggled a little bit with its weight. Now, if the Skyward X were somehow able to cut its fat but keep its muscle, it would be the On Cloudmonster Hyper. So I actually think this was a home run for On after trying to make a good workout shoe for a few years now. And I think they got here by doing something somewhat controversial. So we saw a lot of other brands trying to make their workout shoes bigger and bigger by the year. The Skyward X is actually a good example of that. Whereas On went the other way. So they took their previous workout shoe or super trainer, the Cloudmonster 2, and made it lighter. They removed the speed board, which was this plastic propulsion plate in the midsole, to make the shoe lighter. And I actually think this was a great move because the Cloudmonster Hyper has a whole lot of Helium HF foam, which is the same foam that On uses in its racing shoes. And so it didn't need that extra plastic plate. And the end result is pretty remarkable. It's a shoe that, pound for pound, I think is more powerful than any other sneaker out there. Super bouncy and also very light. So the Cloudmonster Hyper might be a good match for you if you like to work out near top speed. Like, again, this packs a punch and will make you run quickly. It might also be a good fit if you tend to run on your midfoot or onto your toes, because this does thrust you forward. Might be awkward if you're more so of a heel striker. Also, if you like a rigid running shoe as opposed to something that's a little bit more foamy and cushiony, this is a good option because it is pretty stiff and you won't really feel any shifting when you land. Meanwhile, the Cloud Monster Hyper might not be for you if, as mentioned, you're a heel striker. It'll probably thrust you onto your toes more than what feels natural. You also might want to look elsewhere if you're trying to save money, because this shoe is on the pricey end of workout sneakers. Okay, two small things before we finally get to our number one. I want to throw two disclaimers / honorable mentions to shoes that we didn't include for particular reasons. So one such shoe is the ASICS Magic Speed 4, which I absolutely love, but I didn't include on this list because it's so aggressive that I almost want to call it a racing shoe. But side note, if you're into something that feels almost like a racer and you want to wear something like that for workouts, this is a good option. But it's so fast and so bouncy off the ground that I struggled to call it a workout shoe. And the second honorable mention is more of a curiosity than anything else, but I really wanted to get my hands on a pair of Adidas Prime Strung X2s. They're known to be the biggest workout shoe on the market, so they're 50 millimeters high and they're just massive. But I wasn't able to find them anywhere, and I figured that if I can't find them, neither can you probably. And so there's no real point in mentioning them if no one can get their hands on them. So we'll leave them out for now, but that'll be for another time because I am curious to try them out sometime. Okay, now that we got this out of the way, who's ready for number one? Let's get a drum roll. Our top workout shoe of 2024 is the ASICS Super Blast 2 Paris. I fell in love with these shoes not because they're super bouncy or super aggressive, but actually quite the opposite. They feel a lot more like an easy running shoe than a racing shoe, and I've realized I really like that. What I mean is that they are a rare breed, so they're durable and they're comfy like any regular trainer, but they also have a whole lot of bounce to them because they do have quite a bit of super foam in their midsole, and then all in all, they're still quite lightweight, so they do have a bit more pop than a regular easy running shoe. Now, the reason I like them is because it's a workout shoe disguised as an easy running shoe, and its conservative build prevents me from going too hard in workouts and treating them as races. And look, if you're like me and are known to overstretch workouts and sometimes delve into race pace a bit too much, this is a good antidote to that. And then bonus points is that you can do really long runs in them and still feel good, kind of like you would with a regular trainer, but you have that bounce. So it's the best of both worlds. Now, I don't think the Super Blast 2 should be your shoe of choice if you're doing something really fast, like hill sprints or short track intervals, but it's amazing for anything else. Tempo, threshold, steady state, fartleks, long marathon pace workouts, and even just steady long runs. So it's a jack of all trades in that area. The ASICS Super Blast 2 might be for you if you're in the market for a shoe that'll carry you through the big bulky runs of your marathon, half marathon, or 10K build, if you value durability and comfort in a shoe, and also if you're a heel to mid-foot striker, because this shoe doesn't necessarily thrust you onto your toes. It meets you where you're at. Meanwhile, the Super Blast 2 is probably not for you if, as mentioned, you're looking for something that's faster and more aggressive, or also if you're trying to save money because there's a lot cheaper out there. And that's it. These are my top 5 favorite workout shoes of 2024. Find me in the comments. Let me know where I'm wrong, which of these shoes you don't like, or which shoes I missed, because I'm ready to defend these choices until the end, or until Nike releases something better.